can see that we are working on the first post. We actually worked on each post separately, this one being the first. Our posts are 4 by 4 by 8, and we dug our holes 1.5 feet deep. The bottom 6 inches of the hole, we did place drainage rocks there at the bottom just to help with water flow. Our soil is pretty good about drainage, however, we just added this as basically an extra layer of protection for our post. Once we got the drainage rocks into the hole, you can see that we utilized the post to kind of tamp down the drainage rocks to just get them even and level before we decided to put concrete in there. We bought 1 bag of Quickcrete at Lowe's. It's actually all we needed for this project was just 1 bag. It worked perfectly, with each hole being 1.5 feet deep with 6 inches of rocks at the bottom. Once we tamped down the rocks and got everything level and even and kind of got an idea of how we wanted the post to be situated, we then moved on to what we wanted to try for the preservation of the wood or protecting of the wood. Before setting the post, we burned them, attempting to use the Shugibon preservation method. This is traditionally used with Japanese cedar. It is a Japanese traditional method of wood preservation. This is in order to weatherproof it, essentially, rather than using a chemical stain or, just a typical wood stain. The wood is basically burned until the surface is charred, and then you coat it with a natural oil, such as mineral oil, linseed oil, or any other natural oil that you would like to use. So essentially we just built a fire in our fire ring that we have. From there, once the flames got going, we tested one post first. Once we saw that the method was going pretty well, I decided to jump in and go ahead with the other posts that we have. Essentially, we charred one surface or one side. Once that caught flame and charred a bit, we basically just blew out the flame. From there, we moved on to the next surface until you got all 4 sides, moving in increments down the post. You can also see Ruthie throughout this video. This is Ruthie May. She is definitely our site foreman. She gets paid in belly scratches. Once we completed that, we moved it over. We have some railroad ties. We just set them on there. I then used a wire brush to kind of brush off all of the excess char or ash, whatever you want to call it, from the post to kind of make it smooth to where you could actually see the wood grain as well. And then once that was done, basically just wipe it down, put the oil that you choose on there, and then you're ready to use your wood. At this point, you definitely want to make sure not to touch your face or your clothes. I had black soot from head to toe, basically, at the end of the day, even though I had on gloves. So, just a forewarning here. All right, and here we are working on the second post. Kind of difficult when you're on a slope or hill or something like that, so we just took a little extra time to make sure it is exactly where we want it. We took turns digging, kind of gets tiring. It was super hot this day, so we just took it easy, took turns, and got the hole dug about 1.5 feet again. We put the dirt that we dug on a tarp. That way it was easy to move around from one hole to the other. This definitely made things easier on us in the long run. Here we're just taking a few buckets of rocks, drainage rocks, just like we did in the other, filling the bottom 6 inches of the hole with drainage rocks and getting the post set even and situated the way that we want it facing, making sure everything's level. And every hot work day calls for a nice shaded break. Again, we're just using the post to tamp down the rocks, make sure that they are also even and level as much as we can get them. And then from there, we are just putting in the Quikrete, getting it situated before we pour the water in, and then we let it set up. Ruthie was definitely enjoying the sunshine and the shade this day, especially the shade. In these next few clips, I just kind of wanted to give an up-close view of us putting the concrete in. It's not really in detail, but essentially with Quikrete, you place the powder, the concrete powder, into the hole. Make sure that it's filled completely everywhere that you want it, all the nooks and crannies, and then you pour water on it and it becomes solid concrete. It's pretty quick setting, hence the name Quikrete. We did have a time trying to get everything level. Dan has the level here, while it was setting and before it was setting. So we did use a piece of wood, and I think in a couple of instances we used a stone, like a large paver stone, to hold the pole or the post level while we poured that, mixed it in with the water, and let it set. Not gonna lie, it was a pretty hectic event. We got it done, it was done properly, and we did it to the best of our ability. So the poles, it is now April of 2023, and this was probably shot in October of 2022, if not September. And they're still standing strong, haven't moved, and they're doing just fine. So the hardware that we used for this project is picture hanging wire, a hook and eye turnbuckle, and a wire rope clamp or a cable clamp, and finally an eyelet screw. Alright, and here's kind of a roundabout shot. We used a wood block and a cinder block to hold the post while the Quikrete set. In these clips, Dan was using his drill to drill pilot holes for the eyelet hooks that we're about to put into the post to hold the wire that we string across the two. After drilling the pilot hole, we took the eyelet hooks and manually screwed them in. We took turns doing this because yes, it does hurt your hand after a while. You could take a screwdriver and screw it in, like stick it through and kind of pull it like a mechanism, but we wanted to do it manually without the screwdriver to make sure that they went in straight. Here I just wanted to give you an all-around view of the berry trellis once it was completed. This is with all of the wire hooked up to the post using all of the hardware. What we did was thread the picture hanging wire through each piece of hardware to clamp it, secure it, and make sure that it was as taut or tight as we could get it. We created 2 wires on each side of the berry trellis to hold the canes once they start growing, and eventually once they get taller they start falling over. So this is going to act as pretty much as like a cradle for the berry canes. And with these hook and eye turnbuckle pieces of hardware, we're going to be able to unhook it if needed to allow them to fall whenever it comes time to pruning them or cutting them back in the fall, or if we just want to allow them to fall over for harvesting or what have you, we do have the option to remove the wire from holding them. And these are up-close views of the berries that we have. We have blackberries and raspberries on this trellis.